Rectangular coordinate. Whenever we talk about coordinates on a graph, we always have this order pair of x, comma, y, where y depends on x. So let's start with this graph. We have 4 quadrants. This is quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. And then this one's quadrant 4. On this graph, we have an x-axis, and it runs horizontally right here. And then we have a y-axis, and it runs this vertical line. Whenever we start on the graph reading it, we always start right here. This is called my origin. This is where x is 0 and y is 0. This is my starting point. Okay? Anytime we cross the x-axis, y is equal to 0. Okay? Anytime we cross the y-axis, x is 0. So what is this saying? That my x-intercept, right? It's saying that when I cross the x-axis, it gives me an x-intercept. So anywhere on this line here that I cross, y will always be 0. So when we go to this line here, which is my y line, anytime that we cross the y-axis, anytime we cross it, then my x will be 0. So let's talk about the values of them. In quadrant 1, my x values are all positive. So from 0 all the way out to where you see x written right here by this arrow, it's called positive infinity because the arrow says we're going continuously. They're all positive values. Now, when we look at the y, let's start at 0 and go up to this y that we see here at the top. And you see the arrow, so this means it's going to positive infinity, right? So there are positive numbers for my y value. In quadrant 2, we start at 0 and go to the left, and what do you notice? That we are going to negative in values, and since we have the arrow, it means we're going off to negative infinity. So my x values are negative. Now I'll start at 0 and let's look at my y values, and in this quadrant, it means y is still going up. That means it's going to be positive because it's above the x-axis. In quadrant 3, we're still representing the side of the y-axis. Going across means that my x is negative. And then go back to 0, 0 and look at your y value. It's going down below the x-axis, so my y is negative. So now let's look at quadrant 4. Go back to 0, 0 and look where x is representing itself. It's going to the right of the y-axis, so it's all positive. And then look at my y value. It's going below the x-axis, so it is negative. Okay, so it's just basically saying in quadrant 1, both x and y values are positive. In quadrant 2, my x is negative, my y is positive. In quadrant 3, my x is negative, my y is negative. In quadrant 4, my x is positive while my y is negative. So I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about slopes of a line. So whenever we have a graph, we may have a slope of a line and that goes up from left to right, and that is called a positive slope. We may have a slope that goes down left to right. That is a negative slope. And then we might have one that goes straight across, which is horizontally. Then that means that my slope is 0. If my line my slope is a vertical line, then that means it's an undefined slope. And let's talk about how do we read. If we are looking at our x-axis, we always read it left to right. We always go left to right. Meaning we always list our smaller number first and our larger number last. And that means on my y value, how do I read it? We start at the bottom. This is negative infinity down here. And we go up to the top to positive infinity. And again, you read it smaller number to larger number. And that is the introduction on coordinates lines. Thank you.